The Last Prophet. Standing. Micaiah and the prophecy that sealed a king's fate. The sun baked the rooftops of Samaria, casting long, golden shadows across the palace of King Ahab. Within its walls, a restless energy stirred. News had spread throughout the northern kingdom. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, had arrived. The two kings, one righteous and the other wicked, now sat side by side, feasting in grandeur, plotting a war not born of divine command, but of royal ambition. Ahab's eyes were sharp, his brow furrowed with a schemer's confidence. "Ramoth Gilead," he said, gripping his golden goblet, "belongs to us, yet the Arameans sit on it like vultures on stolen prey. Shall we let it remain so?" Jehoshaphat, dressed in royal blue and white, stroked his beard and nodded slowly. "I will go with you, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. But—" he paused, voice steady, "let us inquire of the Lord first." Ahab smirked. The word Lord carried little weight in his court unless it came from the mouths of those he paid. Still, he agreed. "Summon the prophets," he ordered. And so they came, 400 in number, a sea of robed men, echoing chants and flattery. Their voices fill the palace court. "Go to Ramoth Gilead," they cried in unison. "The Lord will give it into your hands." One, a man named Zedekiah, even forged iron horns and declared theatrically, "With these you shall gore the Arameans until they are destroyed." The court cheered. Drums beat, wine poured. Ahab smiled smugly and leaned toward Jehoshaphat. "You see, favor from the Lord." But Jehoshaphat's eyes remained unconvinced. There was a tremble in his spirit, a quiet alarm. "Is there no longer a prophet of the Lord here whom we can inquire of?" Ahab's smirk vanished. A shadow crossed his face. "There is one more," he said bitterly. "Micaiah, son of Imlah. But I hate him. He never prophesies anything good about me, only bad." Jehoshaphat frowned. "Let not the king say so. Call him." Somewhere far from the feasting, in a humble dwelling surrounded by silence and scripture, Micaiah sat in prayer. He was not like the others. No palace salary, no iron horns, no need to twist truth for favor. Then came the knock, loud, impatient, a royal officer, flanked by guards. "The king summons you." Micaiah looked up slowly. He had expected this. He always knew his voice would eventually be required, not for truth, but as a spectacle in the theater of politics. On the journey to the palace, the officer leaned in close. "Listen," he whispered urgently. "The other prophets, all 400, have spoken well. Let your word be like theirs. Just agree." Micaiah's face remained like stone. "As surely as the Lord lives," he replied, "I will say only what the Lord tells me." The grand court was already abuzz with excitement. Jehoshaphat waited quietly. Ahab leaned back on his throne like a man already victorious, and then he entered. Micaiah, robed not in luxury, but in linen. The room grew quiet. Ahab eyed him with disdain. "Micaiah, shall we go to war against Ramoth Gilead or not?" Micaiah looked around. The 400 prophets stood beaming. Zedekiah clutched his iron horns like trophies. He glanced at Jehoshaphat, noble, solemn, then at Ahab, arrogant, thirsty for blood. With a voice coated in sarcasm, Micaiah said, "Attack and be victorious, for the Lord will give it into your hands." Ahab sat forward. "How many times must I make you swear to tell me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord?" And Micaiah's face darkened. He stepped forward, voice now stripped of irony, replaced by a chilling calm. "I saw all Israel scattered on the hills like sheep without a shepherd, and the Lord said, these people have no master, let each return home in peace." The court froze. Ahab's face twisted. "See?" he roared, turning to Jehoshaphat. "Did I not tell you? He never prophesies anything good about me." But Micaiah raised his hand. "Hear the word of the Lord." And then he told them a vision unlike any ever spoken in a king's court. "I saw the Lord sitting on his throne," Micaiah said, "with all the host of heaven standing on his right and left. And the Lord said, 'Who will entice Ahab to go to Ramoth-Gilead and fall there?' One spirit said this, another said that. Then a spirit came forward and said, 'I will entice him.' 'How?' asked the Lord. 'I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouths of all his prophets.' And the Lord said, 'You will succeed. Go and do it.'" The crowd gasped. The room spun with murmurs. Micaiah's voice rang like a bell in a storm. "So now the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouths of all these prophets of yours. The Lord has decreed disaster for you." Zedekiah stepped forward, iron horns trembling in his hands. His face red with fury, he struck Micaiah across the face. "Which way did the Spirit of the Lord go when he went from me to speak to you?" he mocked. Micaiah did not flinch. "You will find out on the day you go to hide in an inner room." Ahab's patience snapped. "Seize him," he ordered. "Take him back to Amon the governor and Joash the king's son. Put this man in prison. Feed him nothing but bread and water until I return safely." But Micaiah's final words pierced the court like thunder. "If you ever return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me. Mark my words, all you people." 6. The cloak of deception. Despite the warning, Ahab marched toward Ramoth-Gilead. Yet even in his heart, fear had taken root. "I will disguise myself in battle," Ahab told Jehoshaphat, "but you wear your royal robes." Jehoshaphat looked surprised, but nodded. So Ahab entered the battlefield as a common soldier, hoping to outwit prophecy. He thought he could hide from fate, wear deception like armor. But the Lord sees through every disguise. The battle raged. Aramean chariots charged toward Jehoshaphat, mistaking him for Ahab. The king of Judah cried out, and the Lord spared him. They turned away. Then, one archer, whose name history does not record, drew his bow at random. He did not know whom he aimed at. He simply loosed the arrow into the chaos. The shaft whistled through air and struck Ahab between the sections of his armor. The disguised king gasped. Blood spilled across the chariot floor. "I'm wounded," he cried. "Take me out of the battle." But they could not. The tide of war swallowed them whole. Ahab bled through the day, slumped in his chariot, watching the sun dip below the hills of Ramoth-Gilead. At sunset, he died. The cry went out, "Every man to his city, every man to his land," just as Micaiah had said. The 8th, the blood of a king. Later, they washed Ahab's chariot at the pool of Samaria. The blood swirled in the water. Dogs lapped it up beside the prostitutes, fulfilling the word of the Lord spoken years before by Elijah, that dogs would lick Ahab's blood where Naboth had died. The man who would not lie back in his prison cell, Micaiah, heard no trumpets, no celebration, just silence, and perhaps distant hoofbeats, soldiers returning without their king. But he had no regret. He was the last prophet standing. He had not bowed, he had not flattered, he had not lied. The truth had cost him chains, but it had also outlived a king. The end